Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, shall we begin? It's already 4 minutes past 5.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna to everyone. So, we welcome everyone in this session of Bhagavad Gita reading. Hare Krishna to everyone. So, Om Jnana Tinvandhasya Garanjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Bhaktivinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Yes, Nidam Mataji, you there?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Pranam. Prabhuji, will you make me a host?
Yeah, just 1 minute. Yes, am I audible to everyone?
Yes,
Hare-
Prabhuji.
Okay, Hare Krishna. We continue from there.
And is it visible? The Mangalacharan screen?
Yeah, you may ask some participants if they want to read Mangalacharan, or you want to read, or anybody else wants to read. Please.
Manvik, you want to read Mangalacharan? Hare Krishna, Manvik.
Hare Krishna.
You want to read Manvik, Mangalacharan?
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes. If you want to read, please carry on. You start.
ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाखया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन
Tasmin Shri.
Manvik, you are not audible.
पदान्तिकं
Manvik, you are not audible. Prabhuji, should I recite the Mangalacharan?
Yeah, yeah.
वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपादाकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सग्रजातं सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितश्च
Yeah. Carry on, Mani.
हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिंधुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा हरे
Krishna,
कृष्णा
Krishna,
कृष्णा
Krishna,
हरे हरे
Hare
हरे
Hare
राम हरे राम 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 हरे हरे।
Hare Krishna. So before we begin, can I know like who is any participant who is joining for the first time today?
Prabhuji, Kashish Mataji is having her first class.
I don't see her name here.
Kashish Navlani Mataji.
But I don't find her name. Is she there online?
Yes,
Hare
she is.
So you're joining for the first in the first session, Madhji? First time? Hare Krishna.
Mataji, you can unmute yourself. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. Yeah, you're joining for the first time?
Yes, Prabhuji.
No, I think it's a Madhji. She is joining first time today. So I just wanted to check, like if there's anyone who's joining first time. So am I audible to everyone?
Yes, Prabhuji. I think we should start from the summary session.
So, so far what we have read in introduction, that Bhagavad Gita is called Gita Upanishad, And we should, Bhagavad Gita tells us like how to get out from this material world, which is a place of nescience. And the speaker of Bhagavad Gita is Krishna himself, who is Bhagwan, who is accepted, who has been accepted as Bhagwan by many acharyas, famous acharyas. And also Krishna himself will speak about himself that he is God in Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita we have read, it refers to, it speaks of Ishwar, it speaks of soul, and it speaks of material nature, and it speaks of karmas and time. So out of all this, the karmas are not eternal. And Krishna himself here, and what is the qualification of God? That Krishna, the word Krishna means that all attractive. And the person who is all attractive must have all the 6 attributes in full. And what are those? They are beauty, wealth, knowledge, fame, power, strength, and renunciation. So we have seen these qualities, they attract everyone in this material world. We get attracted, whosoever has any one of these qualities, we get attracted towards him. And the God, Krishna, he has all these qualities in full. Nobody is more beautiful, more good looking than him. Nobody has. He is the creator of all the wealth. He has all the knowledge, and he is so famous because he has created everything, and he has all the strength. Nobody is more powerful. That's why the Krishna's another name is Asamo Urdhava. Asamo Urdhava means nobody is equal or greater than him. So the purpose of Bhagavad Gita is said that teach mankind to get this spiritual knowledge and get out from this place of miseries. So only the fortunate one, like we have seen, that people are not generally interested talking about or understanding or listening to spiritual subject matter. And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that this is actually those who take to this spiritual science and who understand that Krishna is Supreme Personality of God, and they are really very fortunate. So there is a verse in Bhagavad Gita which says, Manusya nam sesteshu kaschit yatati siddhaye yatatapi siddha nam kaschit mam veti tattva, which means that like out of thousands and thousands and thousands of people, there's someone who has some interest in to spiritual subject matter. And they are very rare out of those who have interest. There hardly anyone, they're very rare that who can understand Krishna himself in full, Krishna in full. So we are all actually very fortunate who have come to understand, who have come to read, come to know this spiritual science, and through Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita, as I said, is essence of all Vedic knowledge. So if we know Bhagavad Gita, then we actually know what is the Vedic sciences, what is who is the God, what is this material nature, and who we are, and what is the aim of life, what we are doing here, where have we come from, and where we may be going. So once we have this aim, because we have this experience that we do not work in this material world. Nobody works rather without aim. Everybody has got some aim when he's doing something. So how we are living here without aim, this is a big question actually. So many times you ask people like, what is this life? What is the aim of life? They may say like earn money and enjoy yourself, but actually this is not true. This is not the aim. So because if we are created, there has to be some reason. Without reason, nothing happens. And if this happened, like this, all this material world is existing, it has to be there. There has to be some reason behind it. So, and in this human form of life only, there is a possibility to know, to understand the reason, and to know the aim of life. So, and as we have discussed this many times, that the soul's eternal characteristics is to be happy, because it is a part and parcel of God, and who is Satchit Anand. The soul also is Satchit Anand. So being Sat, Chit, and Ananda. Ananda means he wants to be in bliss. So that is the reason that we are looking for happiness all the time. Like even when we are, there's one good example that like we are not happy anywhere. Even if people, those who are earning millions of dollars a month, if you talk to them, they also are looking for some break, which means if they were happy, why would they look for a break? If they are looking for a break, which means they are not actually really happy. They want to have some time which is free of anxiety. So which means constantly we are under some or other kind of anxiety. So when we are free, not doing anything, probably when there is no anxiety of any of this material nature, of any of material world, then we are peaceful. And the precondition of happiness is peacefulness. So you will notice, like when we are peaceful, then only we can be, there is possibility of becoming happy. Otherwise, no. A person who is in anxiety, let him have any amount of luxuries, let him have any amount of money, let him have any amount of anything, that he will not be happy. The person who is in anxiety, he cannot be happy. So we have to get rid of anxiety. And the reason of anxiety is this material world. And because we are in this material world, why we are in this material world? Because we have material body. So material body is due to certain reasons. So once we get rid of those reasons, which means our previous karmas, when we get rid of that, then only we get out from here. So then also we discussed, yes, what is the definition of mukti? Mukti means getting liberated from these clutches of, from the laws of material nature. And that will happen when we are out from these three, the three principles, which are three gunas of material nature, sattva guna, rajo guna, tamo guna. So long we are under this, we cannot be liberated. So we have to get out from this. And better than tamogun is rajogun, and better than rajogun is satogun. Sattva is the mode of goodness, rajo is mode of passion, and tamogun is mode of ignorance. So unless we are in the mode of goodness, then which basically this mode suggests that our level of consciousness. So this is to be understood. We discussed this many times. The level of consciousness. So unless we are at this level, we cannot understand the spiritual science. So the prime condition of understanding, of knowing the spiritual science of soul, of super soul, of God, is that we should be at least in the mode of goodness. So Bhagavad Gita, another thing is Bhagavad Gita, by studying this, life becomes purified. And how does life become purified? By taking to spirituality. And the meaning of spirituality is taking to devotional service. And devotional service comprises of 9 different processes, which starts from hearing and chanting. It starts with it begins from Shravanam Kirtanam. So it starts from Shravanam. So we all are here to hear. Hearing is the most important point. So when even reading is called hearing, because when we read something, it through or like it's called hearing because then it goes to the mind, goes to the heart, and then affects the soul. So kirtan also, like we hear, and then We kirtan. Kirtan means it's Krishna's chanting Krishna's name. So Krishna's name we can chant alone and in group also, in the congregation, which is called Sankirtan also. So why should we chant Krishna's name and that it purifies us? Because this is the only process which is suggested by the scriptures in this age of Kali Yuga, because no other process is possible to be performed to get liberated from this material world. So Krishna's name, God's name, and as I said, we discussed this before, that God's name are known different from God. So which means because God is absolute, that's why his name, his form, his uh, pastimes, his paraphernalia is all at absolute platform. So when we talk of God's name, me and my name are definitely different. But when we talk about God, then he is known different from his name. So, but when this works, this is a prescription for this material disease. So when person is suffering from some disease, then he has to take medicine. And medicine, it takes its own time to work. So this is the medicine for this age. And we should not expect miracle. Like when we take medicine, it takes its own time. So when we start into this spiritual practices, which is starting from chanting, Shravanam, and Kirtanam, Smaranam, and then it goes on, there are 9 different processes. So the God's name chanting is very, very important in this age of Kali Yuga. There's a verse also, Padam Puran, it says, Harinam, Harinam, Harinam evo kevalam, kalau nastayu, nastayu, nastayu gatiranyatha. This means that only God's name, there are 3 times it is said, Harinam, Harinam. The God's name is the only means to get delivered from this material world in this age of Kali Yuga. So, and other things we discussed, that this term, the dharma, which is religion, and this religion means faith, the kind of a faith, and faith could be different. I can change my faith anytime. Sometimes somebody may be practicing Christianity, and sometimes maybe practicing Islam, and sometimes maybe some other faith. He can change the faith, but eternal, which is called Sanatan Dharma, eternal Dharma. Eternal Dharma of every living being is to serve. This is the main characteristics of the soul. So the soul has been created to serve. To serve whom? To serve Creator. It is part, as we discussed this point, that is like we are part of the machine, and our best position is to remain fixed in the machine, or to cooperate with the machine, or to be part of the organization, cooperate the organization. So when we are cooperating in this God system, it's a naturally happy position. So, and last time we read that how Krishna, Bhagavad Gita tells us not to worship demigods. It disapproves the worship of demigods, because Krishna himself, when he came, he stopped this demigod worship. Even when his parents, Nanda Baba, when he was there in the Vrindavan, they wanted to do Govardhan, they wanted to do Indra Puja. So Krishna said, like, there's no point. He forbade them not to do it. He convinced them not to do demigod worship. So, and there is a reason, because demigod worship is like a business. And through this business, business is always give and take. We buy certain things, we pay material, we pay money, and in return we get something. So this is the process. When we worship, when we want some material advantages, we go to a particular demigod for a particular kind of a demand. And when we perform the kind of there's a different ways and methods suggested by scriptures, that this way we must worship a particular demigod to get a particular kind of a benefit from him. But anyway, because all this is temporary, though Krishna says there's no point getting something like which is going to finish tomorrow, because this body itself is temporary. and it's going to finish one day. So we should look for, if we want really happiness, they are only temporary happiness. Like if we get some material power, some material means, some material enjoyment, there is not going to last. And even if we feel, well, I'm very good here, I don't need anything else, then also it is going to end one day with the end of the death, with the end of this body. So this body is going to die one day. We have to understand this. And this whole material world, this is temporary. So we as a soul are permanent. So I think this must be clear by now, that we are within this body, like a driver in the car. So we need the car, driver needs the car to get his work done. But the car is not everything. To get his work done, we definitely need the car. And for this reason, the car has to be kept in good running condition. So this body is like a vehicle. So this vehicle has to be kept in good running condition, which means it must be kept healthy, in a healthy condition. So which means we must fulfill the minimum requirement to keep this body in a healthy condition, because by using this body only, whether material or spiritual, anything, if we want to make progress, so we have to use this body. So that's why this body is very important. So Krishna says that yes, we must take care of this body, but we should not only be polishing the car all the time and we forget about the driver. So if we do that, then the purpose gets defeated. The purpose is to use this body, not to only look after this body. So use this body for the service of Krishna, for making spiritual advancement. So everywhere, and then another thing we read last time was that yes, there are different ways and methods for going to other planets, but there is no point. Krishna says also that, like, even if you go to any other planet, there also is birth, death, and old age and disease. Maybe the time duration of life would be longer there. We may live thousands of years in some planets, and but ultimately death is there also. We may have to come back. So this is the process, and which is explained in Bhagavad Gita, Yanti Deva, which means by worshipping different demigods, we can approach the planets. And then if we want a particular kind of whether the duration of life or more material pleasures, we can get there, but ultimately it's going to end, and there's no point. So we go further from here, and we read. So anyone has any question up to this, we can discuss this. So I think that one I may want to ask, that do we have any doubts that if there is any life after death, or if there is God, and who is God? In this respect, do we have any doubts? If there is, then we can clear it here. If no, then we read further. Yes, Mataji, you may start from here.
Hare Krishna, is the screen visible?
Yeah.
Okay, so Ovi Mataji can start reading from the Lord suggests that we attain the spiritual world. Hare Krishna, Ovi Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. निर्मात्मा मोजत संग दोषाध्यात्म नित्य विन वृत कम द्वंद्वीर विमुक्त सुख दुख समझनीर. Mataji, please scroll the screen.
I think now it's visible, Mataji. I already
Yes,
did.
Mataji. Gacyanti amudha padam avyaktam tata.
Padam
That padam
avyam tata.
avyayam or
Yeah.
avyam tata. That Padam Avyayam or eternal kingdom can be reached by one who is Nirman Moha. What does this mean? We are after designations. Someone wants to become Sir, someone wants to become Lord, someone wants to become the president, or a rich man, or a king, or something else. As long as we are attached to these designations, we are attached to the body because designations belong to the body, but we are not these bodies. And realizing this is the first stage in spiritual realization. We are associated with the three modes of material nature, but we most become detached through devotional service to the Lord. If we are not attached to devotional service to the Lord, then we cannot become detached from the modes of material nature. Designations and attachments are due to our lust and desire, our wanting to lord it over the material nature. As long as we do not give up this propensity of lording it over material nature, there is no possibility of returning to the kingdom of the Supreme, the Sanatan Dharma. That that eternal kingdom which is never destroyed can be approached by one who is not bewildered by the attractions of false material enjoyments, who is situated in the service of the Supreme Lord. One so situated can easily approach that supreme abode. Elsewhere in the Gita 8.21, it is stated, Avyakto akshara iti yuktas.
I think you make it. Thank you. So here, this is like how can we go to the spiritual planet? So there's one verse in Bhagavad Gita which is in 15.5. When we some of the time we will describe this verse, but it's a very nice verse. But it says, Nirman Moha Jiti Sangha Dosha Adhyatma Nitya Vinivarta Kama Dvander Vimukta Sukh Dukh Sange Gachanti Amuda Padam Avyam Tat. This is the Lord's abode is called Padam Avyayam. Padam means the final, and Avyam. Avyayam. Avyayam means the inexhaustible. So to reach there, there's the Krishna says the Nirman Moha. So we have to, Nir means without, and Man means false prestige. So this is the first point. So we have to get out from this feeling that like I should not be having any kind of false pride. Man means the pride. So I should not be having any kind of a false prestige. So this comes from my position in this material world, which is called designation. So sometimes I want to be a prestigious person, but I want to be called a prestigious person because I'm owner of a certain industry, or I'm a CEO, or I may be having different kind of designation. So this shows that my attachment to this material world, to my positions. But these designations are due to the body. They have nothing to do with the soul. So what does it mean? It means that I should behave normal, like this designation should affect me. So then there is a possibility to return to God, back to God. Then only there is possibility. So this is the first thing, Nirman Moha, Jit Sangha Dosha, which means there are different kind of say with due to some kind of association of lower modes. So I may develop certain kind of a desire which are attached to the lower modes. So I must get rid of such desires also. So then it says that as long as we do not give up the propensity of lording it over the material nature. So everybody in this material world wants to lord over, wants to be owner of certain things. wants to be proprietor of certain things, wants to enjoy, because one enjoy this material world by having such designation. So we have to again get rid of these are the prescriptions which God is suggesting in chapter 15. And we will read further on this. And Krishna says that by one who is not bewildered by the attractions of false material enjoyment, who is situated in the service of the Supreme Lord, one so situated can easily approach that supreme abode. So we have to situate in that situation where I do not have any attachment with this material world. I may have to get out from this attachment. So this is the most important thing. But that I may be living here, I should not be going to the jungle, getting away from it. And this is possible only through bhakti ways. But there are different ways, munis and yogis, they go out to the Himalayas and jungles and just to get rid of such attachments only. But since they can't give up from the mind such attachment, so that's why they come back. So, but bhakti ways is the only process where what all we have, if we consider that it is all God's and we must use it for God's service only, then slowly and slowly this propensity of detachment, it develops. And while developing this, that we can be in a position, we can get situated as God is suggesting here, Krishna is suggesting here. Then when we are situated in this service of the Supreme Lord. So this is most important. The bhakti is basically service to the loving service to the Supreme Lord. That's bhakti. And this is bhakti way is the only easiest way in this Kali Yuga. Otherwise, it's not possible. So we go read further. Yes. Avyaktokshara ityuk.
Hare Krishna, man, we can start reading from Avyakta means.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Avyaktokshara iti yuktastam ahu paramam gatim yam prapya na nivartante tadhama paramam mama. Avyakta means unmanifested. Not even all of the material world is manifested before us. Our senses are so imperfect that we cannot even see all the stars within this material universe. In Vedic literature, we can receive much information about all the planets, and we can believe it or not believe it. All of the important planets are described in Vedic literatures, especially Srimad Bhagavatam and the spiritual world, which is beyond the material sky, is described as avyakta, unmanifested. One should desire and hanker after that supreme kingdom. For when one attains that kingdom, he can you please scroll it a bit down?
Is it visible?
Yes. Does not have to return to this material world. Next, one may raise the question of how one goes about approaching that abode of the Supreme Lord. Information of this is given in the 8th chapter. It is said there, Antakale.
That's all. That's all. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So here Krishna says, like, but we must have faith in our scriptures. The information, all these planets, etc., is given in the Vedic literature, especially in Srimad Bhagavatam. And another thing is mentioned that like how to get there, how to approach this. So there he says, and then the speciality Krishna says about these spiritual planets, like yad gatva na nivardante tad dham paramam mama. Krishna says about his planet, like once someone goes there, he never has to return back in this material world of miseries, because he is eternally happy there. Why will he have to come back? So, and how to go there, this is explained in the chapter 8 of Bhagavad Gita. It says, Antkale cha mamev smaran muktva kalevaram yat parayati samad bhavam yati nasti atu sanshaya. He said, you can note down that Krishna specifically mentions here that there's no doubt about this. One, that who is Krishna, his Supreme Personality of Godhead. Whose another name is Satya Sankalpa. I am saying what all he says is absolute truth. Is absolute truth. There is no question of any doubts on that. So, especially if he adds this, the Nasti Atra Sanshaya, he says there's no doubt about this. And what? No doubt about on what? He says, Antakale Chamame Vismaran Mukta Kalevaram. He says Antakale means end of the life. Which means at the time of death, at the time of dying. Like if we can remember Krishna or Krishna's pastime, he says, then Antakale, he gets Antakale Chamame Smaran Mukta Kalevaram. Smaran Mukta means he leaves the body. Ya Prayati Samad Bhavam. He says, he gets to my nature. Mad Bhavan means my nature. My nature means like he gets to Krishna. What is Krishna nature? Satchit Anand. Which means the person, which means the soul, who is leaving body. And if we can remember Krishna at the time of death, he also becomes the same bhava. Same bhava means he also becomes the Satchit Ananda nature, and which is Krishna's nature, and then he gets there. So we read on this note.
Hare Krishna. Asha Mataji can start reading.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
अंतकाले च माम एव स्मरण मुक्त्वा कलेवरम यह प्रयाति समद्भावम याति नास्ति अत्र संशयः. And whoever at the end of his life quits his body, remembering me, attains immediately to my nature, and there is no doubt of this. Bhagavad Gita 8.5. One who thinks of Krishna at the time of his death goes to Krishna. One must remember the form of Krishna. If he quits his body thinking of this form, he surely approaches the spiritual kingdom. Madbhavam refers to the supreme nature of the supreme being. The supreme being is Sachidananda Vigraha. But what is BS, Prabhuji?
What is?
BS 5.1. Brahma Samhita.
Brahma, yeah.
Brahma Samhita 5.1. That is, his form is eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. Our present body is Sachidananda. Is not Sachidananda. It is Asat, not Sat. It is not eternal. It is perishable. It is not Chit, full of knowledge. But it is full of ignorance. We have no knowledge of spiritual kingdom, nor do we even have perfect knowledge of this material world where there are so many things unknown. Mataji, can you just scroll a little bit? Yeah. Unknown to...
It's okay, Mataji.
Yeah, I have a book. I will read from this. I have a book I can read, Mataji.
Yeah.
Where there are so many things unknown to us. The body is also Nirananda. Instead of being full of bliss, it is full of misery. All of the miseries we experience in the material world arise from the body, but one who leaves this body thinking of Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, at once attains a Sachidananda body.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. So, although we have discussed these points many times, so our body is Asat, Achit, and Niranand, which is not eternal, which is not cognizant, not having knowledge, and which is of no bliss, which has got no bliss, no anand. So this is what kind of body we have. But if we remember Krishna at the time of death, and that can be possible only if we practice from now only. Prahlad Maharaj, he says that it must be started from the childhood. Kumar, he said that when we are 5 or 6 years, even at that time, or maybe like whenever earliest whenever we can, the parents should induce children basically into spiritual science, of knowing spiritual science. But unfortunately, this is right opposite. The people say they dissuade children, if at all they are involved into spiritual activities, they dissuade them. So this is actually so unfortunate, not knowing, not having the real knowledge that such thing happens. So that's the reason that we must have this knowledge and we must practice it. So if we practice it, then at the time of death, we can remember Krishna because we have done this. What all we do, that only comes to the mind, especially at the time of death. So if we have remembered Krishna, we have practiced spirituality, then definitely we can think of Krishna at the time of death. And once we do that, we go to Krishna Loka. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Monica Mataji, you can unmute herself and start reading.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
The process of quitting this body and getting another body in the material world is also organized. A man dies after it has been decided what form of body he will have in the next life. Higher authorities, not the living entity himself, make this decision. According to our activities in this life, we either rise or sink. This life is a preparation for the next life. If we can prepare, therefore, in this life to get promotion to the kingdom of God, then surely after quitting this material body, we will attain a spiritual body just like the Lord's. As explained before, there are different kinds of transcendentalists, the Brahmavadi, Paramatmavadi, and the devotee. And as mentioned in the Brahma Jyoti, spiritual sky, there are innumerable spiritual planets. The number of these planets is far, far greater than all of the planets of this material world. This material world has been approximated as only 1/4 of the creation. In this material segment, there are millions and billions of universes with trillions of planets and suns, stars, and moons. But this whole material creation is only a fragment of the total creation. Most of the creation is in the spiritual sky. One who desires to merge into the existence of the Supreme Brahman is at once transferred to the Brahma Jyoti of the Supreme Lord and thus attains the spiritual sky. The devotee who wants to enjoy the association of the Lord enters into the Vaikunt planets, which are innumerable, and the Supreme Lord, by his plenary expansions as Narayan with 4 hands and with different names like Pradyumna, Aniruddha, and Govinda, associates with him there. Therefore, at the end of life, the transcendentalists think either of the Brahma Jyoti, the Paramatma, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. In all cases, they enter into the spiritual sky, but only the devotee or he who is in personal touch with the Supreme Lord enters into the Vaikunt planets or the Goloka Vrindavan planet. The Lord further adds that of this there is no doubt. This must be believed firmly. We should not reject that which does not tally with our imagination. Our attitude should be that of Arjuna. I believe everything that you have said. Therefore, when the Lord says that at the time of death, whoever thinks of him as Brahman or Paramatma or as the personality of Godhead certainly enters into the spiritual sky, there is no doubt about it. There is no question of disbelieving it.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So we have discussed this point earlier also. There are 3. The transcendentalist means what? Transcendentalist means those who are practicing spirituality. They are transcendentalists. So there are 3 kinds, it says, Bhagavad Gita says, informs us that those who wants to merge into Brahman, they go to effulgence, which is Brahma Jyoti, and those who wants to personally associate with the Lord, who are worshipping, who are realizing God. So they are another category. So those practicing to merge into the Brahman, their approach is only to the effulgence of the Lord, which is called Brahma Jyoti, as I said. But now they are practicing the end of the day, like if they can remember, I'm saying at the time of death, they can remember whether Bhagwan or Paramatma. Paramatma is localized form of God in the heart, and which is 400 form. And they go to Vaikuntha planets. And those who remember Krishna as devotee, they go to the what is it called Vrindavan, Golok Vrindavan. So Golok Vrindavan is Krishna's own abode. So they go there to associate with the Lord at personal level. So which means Golok Vrindavan, then Vaikuntha planets, and Brahma Jyoti. There are three different categories. So those who are practicing, they may go to their different destination, and these are the spiritual planets. And as we Bhagavad Gita informs us that this material creation of the Lord, which has got millions and billions of stars and Earth-like planets and suns and moons and everything, this all comprised of 1/4 of the Lord's creation. You can imagine how vast may be the spiritual sky. So this is only 1/4 of the Lord's creation. The 3/4 is his spiritual planets. So it is said, Srila Prabhupada used to say, like 1/4 is that part where we are sent, I mean the soul, the created ones, they are sent for some kind of punishment, as a punishment. So punishment, what is this punishment for? The punishment is about that we wanted to enjoy. We had the desire of becoming Krishna, which means enjoying like Krishna. The moment we have such desires, so Krishna gives us the opportunity, like, well, you be enjoyer there, you be proprietor there, you be owner there. So that's what the tendencies we have here, that we want to become proprietor and owner. And because we are proprietor and owner, we want to enjoy this also. So this tendency is there because we been there and we had the tendency to enjoy ourselves instead of serving there. So that's why we are here. And once we are out from this tendency of enjoying ourselves, then only there is a possibility of going back. So I think it should be clear here. We read further from here.
Ruchi Mataji can start reading. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. The Bhagavad Gita also explains the general principle that makes it possible to enter the spiritual kingdom simply by thinking of the Supreme at the time of death. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tvajati
Tajanti ante kale
alevaram tam tam evati konteya sada tad bhava bhavita.
Yeah.
Mataji, scroll.
Is it visible, Mataji? Whatever state of being.
It is visible. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his present body in his next life, he will attain to that state without fail. Now, first we must understand that material nature is a display of one of the energies of the Supreme Lord. In the Vishnu Purana 6.7.61, the total energies of the Supreme Lord are delineated. Should I read this?
Yeah, you can. Vishnu Shakti Parashakti Prokta.
Prokta Kshetre Janakya Tatha Para Avidya Karma Samjananya Tritya Saktir Isyate.
Yeah.
CC Madhya 6.154. The Supreme Lord has diverse and innumerable energies which are beyond our conception. However, great learned sages or liberated souls have studied these energies and have analyzed them into three parts. All of the energies are of Vishnu Shakti, that is to say, they are different potencies of Lord Vishnu. The first energy is Para, transcendental. Living entities also belong to the superior energy, as has already been explained. The other energies or material energies are in the mood of ignorance. At the time of death, either we can remain in the inferior energy of this material world or we can transfer to the energy of the spiritual world. So the Bhagavad Gita 8.6. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tajate ante kalevaram tam tam evati konteya sada tad bhavita.
Yeah, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So we discussed this point also. Like Supreme Lord had three energies. This material energy, spiritual energy, and this material energy, inert matter, like where we are living, material world is an inert material energy. And this we as a soul, there are two things. One is body and another is soul, soul within. So soul belongs to, we belong to superior nature, Parashakti, the superior nature. And the inferior nature is this material world. And actually, this living entity, which means the soul, it is called marginal energy. Why it is marginal? Because like God has all the freedom, we have got minute freedom. So we have minute freedom, which means either to be in this material world or in the spiritual world. So by certain reasons, we have come to this material world and we associate. So we have to be either under the material energy or the spiritual energy. If we are in the spiritual world, we are under the Supreme Lord's spiritual energy. And if we are in this material world, we are under material energy. So when we are under material energy, we are bound by it and we have to obey the laws of this material world. So which more laws of the material world are applied on us, which means we get the body and the body changes according to the system, according to the system of the material world. So, and it takes birth, it grows, it dwindles, it is byproducts, and then it dies. Then according to our karma, we take another body. This way, we remain under the laws of material energy. But if we are out from here, we may, if we have gone to the spiritual world, then we come under the association of the Supreme Lord's spiritual energy. And that the difference in material and spiritual is that there is Satchitananda and this is opposite to that. And again, the same sloka which we have already read, Yam Yam Vapi Smaran Bhava, the method of going to spiritual energy of the Lord is this, that like we remember at the time of death.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, should we continue?
Yeah, we can read some more, one more paragraph.
Okay, you can start reading from whatever state of being. Hare Krishna. You can't see you there. Okay. Ritambara Mataji, will you read further?
May I read, Mataji?
Yeah, you
Yes,
can.
Mataji. Start.
Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his present body in his next life, he will attain to that state without fail. In life, we are accustomed to thinking either of the material or of the spiritual energy. Now, how can we transfer our thoughts from the material energy to the spiritual energy? There are so many literatures which fill our thoughts with the material energy, newspapers, magazines, novels, etc. Our thinking, which is now absorbed in these literatures, must be transferred to the Vedic literatures. The great sages, therefore, have written so many
Vedic literatures.
I think it's visible now.
Yes, it is visible. So, Vedic literature such as the Puranas. The Puranas are not imaginative, they are historical records in the Chaitanya Charitamrita,
Yeah.
Charitramrita,
Charitamrita. Yeah.
Madhya 20.122.
Yeah.
There is the following verse. Should I read it?
Yeah.
Maya Mugdha Jivara Nahi Swataha Krishna Janana Jivere
Krishna Jnana.
Kripaya Kaila Krishna Veda Purana.
Yeah.
The forget Acha. Over.
Yeah, you can read this.
The forgetful living entities are conditioned souls, have forgotten their relationships with the Supreme Lord, and they are engrossed in thinking of material activities. Just to transfer their thinking power to the spiritual sky, Krishna, Payana, Vyasa has given a great number of Vedic literatures. First, he divided the Vedas into four, then he explained them in the Puranas, and for less capable people, he wrote the Mahabharata. In the Mahabharata, there is given the Bhagavad Gita. Then all Vedic literature is summarized in the Vedanta Sutra. And for future guidance, gave a natural commentation on the Vedanta Sutra called Srimad Bhagavatam. We must always engage our
Minds.
Yes, we must always engage our minds in reading these Vedic literatures, just as materialists engage their mind in reading newspapers, magazines, and so many materialistic literatures. We must transfer our reading to these literatures, which are given to us by the Vasudeva,
Yes, Dev.
Vyasadeva.
Yeah.
In that way, it will be possible for us to remember the Supreme Lord at the time of death. That is the only way suggested by the Lord, and He guarantees the result. There is no doubt.
So it only says, like, we are in this material world, and here we are engrossed into materialistic activities, whether reading, listening, or hearing, or socializing. All are material activities. At no point we get mixed, we get the possibility, we get the opportunity to hear any spiritual discourses or spiritual reading or spiritual hearing. So if we shift, if we change our habits from material to spiritual, if we get to read the Vedic literature, which comprise of Srimad Bhagavatam, which comprise of Bhagavad Gita or Mahabharata or other Puranas, or the literature what is mentioned here, which are composed by Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva is incarnation, literary incarnation of God. So he has composed them. And then why it has been done? Because when we have come to this material world, we have forgotten about Krishna. So we have forgotten about God. So just to remind us, such literature has been created. So we're referring to these literatures, we can make ourselves spiritualized. And when we are spiritualized, then only at the time of death we can remember Krishna. This is what is explained here. So this is the way that we must keep in touch with the spiritual literature, so that like we read newspaper and other magazines, like Prabhupada gives example, the similar way we should be in touch with such spiritual literature, so that we can get into spirituality by reading this, and we can start practicing it. And we practice it, then we will be able to remember it. So I think we end here. If any questions on so far what we have read, we can try to answer. Or any comments, please come up with the comments. Is there any question or comments?
I think Prabhuji, no one have any question or comment. So
we must have questions. Either we don't read, or we read everything. Either we don't understand, or we understand everything. So only in two situations we may not have questions. So if we have faith, then if we have no doubt, then I think we must take to spirituality very seriously. We should chant Krishna's name all the time. And if we have doubts, we must get our doubts clear.
Prabhuji, should we ask Ruchi Mataji to announce the quiz?
Yeah, yes.
Quiz chat? Mataji, you can unmute yourself and announce the result. Ruchi
Hare
Mataji?
Krishna. Yeah. May I?
Yes, Mataji, please.
On the third position, we have Manvik Prabhuji. On second position, we have
Mataji, you are not audible. Hare Krishna.
sorry. I think I went on mute. On third position, we have Manvik Prabhuji. On second position, we have Sham Chaturvedi Prabhuji. On first position, we have Archana Mataji. Hari
Wow.
Bol.
Hari Bol. So we chant for all those who have participated and all those who have attended this meeting. And we pray to the Lord that He give us enough wisdom to take to His path shown by Him, spoken by Him in Bhagavad Gita. And He helps us understanding the spiritual subject matter. Because without His mercy, because He reserves the right to reveal Himself. He reserves this right. So we pray to Him that He reveals Himself to us and make us understand this difficult subject matter and makes it easy for us, because He is the Paramatma sitting in the heart, and He says in Bhagavad Gita that from me comes the remembrance also. Mata smriti jnanam apohanam cha. He said from me comes the remembrance. Forgetfulness also, it comes from Him. And one may wonder sometimes why forgetfulness also comes, because this is so important. As important as remembrance, this forgetfulness also is that important. Because if you do not forget things, I think it will be very difficult to live this life. It's so important to forget also. But, He is so kind that He makes us forget only what we want to. He's so kind. He makes us remember what we want to. And He is sitting as the first Guru in the heart, and He induces us. He tells us, He keeps instructing us, like do this, do that. And if we remain engaged into spiritual practices, He says, then I give him enough wisdom also to understand me. So that's why He's called the best friend. Iswar Sar Bhutanam. He said, I'm dear friend to everyone, the most dear friend. So this is what the position of God is. And I hope we understand the most important issue is, as I always say, always ask, that do we have any doubts on this, so far what we have read, that like we are this soul, we are not this body. That there is life after death. And there was life before this death, before this birth. And there is a God. And who is God also? And where is He? Like all such questions, if there is any doubt, please get clear. Thank you. Hare Krishna. So we chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna. Everyone can unmute. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Krishna, 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 Hare
Krishna,
Hare.
Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Ram,
Rama
Ram,
Rama,
Ram.
Hare
Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. So tell your friends, whosoever has some interest, so please come together. We read and make progress. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So we end this session today. Hare Krishna.